right, there we go. All right, all right. How we doing, brothers?
Lovely,
Doing good.
lovely.
Happy
Long as you all
Saturday.
right.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Be What Matters. I am one third of the dynamic team with Dr. Katina Fuller Scott. Congratulations on your doctorate recently, as well as Lisa Lewis Daniels of Lionheart Society, LLC. We are here to promote healthy marriages um, because we believe that healthy marriages build stronger communities. So that's for anyone who's in seasoned marriages, anyone that's looking to get married. This is the show for you. So I am Tobias, MSW, as well as poet. Have a book coming out called Life Unscripted. And I am joined today by two amazing brothers, Anthony Johnson and John Haynes III. Anthony Johnson, introduce yourself to the people.
Hey, good afternoon. My name's Anthony Johnson. I'm a life coach and a business relations specialist and consultant. I've been married 28 years this September, father of 6, grandfather of 1, and I believe in the power that comes in dedicated marriages.
Okay. John Haynes III, what say you, my good brother?
Amen, amen. Thank you, Anthony. Good to be serving on the panel with you all today, and thanks for the opportunity. I'm John Haynes III. Family and friends call me Trey, so you're welcome to transition if you'd like. I am an HR executive of over 25 years. I work for a billion-dollar global company based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and at all times, I'm also a leadership and business coach with the whole objective to make sure that leaders are freed up and that we identify the things that are in your way towards being all of your full self and all that you were created to be, and hoping that your business flourishes as well and you find your purpose in all of that and you get to it. I have been blessed to be married to one Gwen Haynes for 20 years and been with her for 28, and I waited on her, y'all, just so you know. And we have one beautiful son, Miles Christian Haynes, meaning anointed soldier. And we are transplants from Bowie, Maryland to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with Norfolk, Virginia being our roots. So thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, all right. We was talking off air about Milwaukee and the Miami Heat playing right now. So go Bucks, I guess.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
All right. We're here to debunk some marriage myths. We've all heard a bunch of them coming along the lines. I know one of the ones that comes to mind right now is a happy wife equals a happy life. Everyone grabs hold to that real cliche. However, it is not accurate. But we have a long list of myths. We won't get to all of them today, people. Feel free to get involved, audience. This is a very interactive show. So post your questions, give StreamYard permission, and post the show, and we'll go ahead and get started. One of the things that absolutely destroys a marriage is the illusion of expectations. Translation, what I had in mind. So now the challenge is what I imagine versus what is reality. And so often we retreat once we get to the reality part because we become locked in with what I had in mind. So in order for this to work, you have to, 1, debunk the myth of your marriage myth, and 2, reimagine love again. So our introduction of love is largely influenced by social media, relationship goals, television, movies, and songs. Speaking of songs, I was listening to Teddy Pendergrass. Quite sure you brothers are familiar with Teddy P.
Of course.
Indeed.
All right. When somebody loves you back, he says, it feels so good when somebody loves you back. Say it not 70-30, not 60-40, talking about a 50-50 love. Sounds good in the song. We use it all the time. We play that song. We cleaning up on Saturdays. but it's really an untrue statement. Marriage is 100, because love requires you to empty yourself. There's no way that you can possibly say, I love you, and you love with restraints, because that's what 50-50 is suggesting. What say you, good brothers?
Well, if it's okay with John, I think I'll dive in on this one right quickly.
Go ahead, brother.
That song sold a lot of records, probably made a lot of babies, but it is theologically incorrect, and it is a myth that we need to debunk today. If we are going to be married in a manner that brings joy first to God and then to our spouse, we have to know that it's about giving my all and not doing my part. For many of us as men, we can reconcile what we do. We're good at saying what we do. We do this. I pay the bills. I wash the cars. I take the trash out. But in marriage, it's not about just me doing my part. Because for many of us, and of course you guys can agree with me or disagree and share your thoughts, we came into marriage based on some form of a Christian foundation. And the foundation that we often hear is that, well, biblically, the Bible tells husbands to love your wives as Christ loved the church.
Okay.
And Tobias, you and I, we've had conversations before. I can sit here all day. If you can go in the Bible and tell me where Christ just did his part, I'm going to give you time to do that now. He never just did his part. He gave it his all. And for us as men, again, I'll be transparent, as a Black man growing up in the South, that's not what I saw. Because I was told, as long as you take care of home, you can do what you want to do. Which translated to, as long as you pay the mortgage and pay the bills, you can do what you want to do. And I thought that if I do that and I cut the grass, I'm all right. She ought to be happy. But again, to have a successful marriage, I've got to be willing to give it my all and do it in a manner in an environment where it's not contingent upon what she's doing. So often we are willing to give 100% if we think she's giving 100%. But that's not the litmus test. The litmus test is, can I give 100% if she's giving 0?
Ooh.
So again, it's a lot of songs, but it's not in a manner going to make a relationship strong or viable in our current setting. Brother John, I'll let you add in now.
I don't know if you left me anything. You made a happy plate. You made a happy plate. you know that boy from the South, if he cleaned his plate. So look, I would just stand on my brother's shoulders and say that is definitely a myth. And bringing your whole self, bringing your authentic self, bringing your transparent self cannot be conditional. It has to be that agape love that we know about. It is unconditional, and it can't be predicated on what your partner, what your wife, what my wife does for me. I have to be willing to give all of me. That's my vow. That's my commitment to her. That's my commitment to God. And the moment I fall short of it is the moment that I'm walking towards failure, and the marriage becomes about me versus making it to forever. And just going back to the expectations thing, I'll just add one qualifier to that Brother Tobias said. It's the unspoken expectations that begin to kill our relationships. Because if you know, like I know, we got a whole bunch of self-talk going on, and that pushes us into, if you rock with me on the analogy here, it pushes us into solitary confinement. And when we go into solitary confinement, we begin to die right there. And if we begin to die, our relationships die. And then our wives don't get what they need. And so it's very important for us to communicate in various ways that allow my wife to know the expectations of our relationship that we're really trying to get to forever, and that I'm willing and I'm invested and I'm sacrificial in giving all of me in this relationship. So agree 100 that it ain't 50-50. And how difficult is it? How difficult is it to give all of yourself, yet empty yourself so that I can learn my wife better? It ain't, and like my reverend says in Maryland at First Baptist Church of Glenarden, marriage is not for the faint of heart. It's real work out here. So if we want to debunk a myth, let's talk about how much work marriage can be. But it can be the best thing that ever happened to you if you're willing to put the right work in and to sacrifice.
Hey, can I tag on to something that John said a moment ago? He talked about pouring our whole self, and he talked about giving our all. One of the things that I see in talking to particularly men is they are willing to share their strengths. They're willing to even share their failures with their spouse, but what they don't want to share is oftentimes their hurt.
Mm.
And so we and again, some of it is systemic, some of it is cultural. We teach our young boys at a young age that young men don't cry.
Come on.
So when we teach them that young men don't cry, we teach them how to suppress hurt and pain. So that when they begin 15, 18, they start dating. If they're hurt, they don't know how to express it. And so we don't know how to, we have to come out of that teaching as husbands and be willing to share not only my successes and maybe my failures, but even my hurt and my pains, so that my spouse is getting all of me. Because if I don't share that with her, she's not getting all of me, and it's not 100%.
Is the altar available? I know it's Saturday, but is the altar open?
We can go ahead today.
Okay.
And again, but that's so true, brothers. I think that we have to be willing again, and some of it comes from bad growing up cultures, and again, growing up, they want our boys to be tough, and I'm okay with my son being tough, but I want him to be able to express his hurt and pain in a manner that is acceptable. Because oftentimes when we don't teach them, the only way they know is through anger and physical engagement. And so we need to teach our sons how to, particularly in relationship, hey, this is how I felt when you did this, and it made me feel whatever. And so until we can get that in us as men, it's difficult to give our wives, all of us, if we're not willing to share all of our hurt, all of our pain.
Yes. I'm just shocked that you said that we hurt. You weren't supposed to tell that part. That was a myth I was going to hold on to.
You can't.
Not if you're going to be successful, brother.
Oh, right. Well, right now we'll go ahead and ask the audience, what myth did you have going into your marriage? What myth did you have going into your marriage? John, you said something about expectations. I just want to touch on that. Expectations during the marriage must be revisited. It just can't be an expectation today and then left there. You have to continue to revisit expectations in order for the relationship to evolve. And Anthony, you said something about emptying yourself, and I mentioned it as well. And one of the things that we run into is that relationships are performance-based. The ones that we entered before marriage. If you do this, I do that. If you do this, I do that.
Quid pro quo.
And so it's so now when I get to the marriage, I'm not going to always be rewarded with that, have the gratification of being rewarded. If I go out here and do this and wash the car, go out here and do this, she may say thank you. She may say nothing, but I still have to give as if she's giving her all.
That's the whole concept behind unconditional love. It's not based on a condition.
And that's where I was headed. Yes, because
it's so easy to say that I love unconditionally, But then the minute I started thinking, well, now I didn't wash dishes 3 days in a row and she ain't said thank you, I'm adding a condition to what I'm doing. And so again, it takes a mature man to love without a thank you or an acknowledgement.
Bro, and you find out how unconditional your love is and what qualifications you put on it when the tests finally come and the storms finally hit. And some people in some circles would call that the wall, when the crisis hits. You find out how conditional your love and how much you're willing to sacrifice and how much you're willing to, what I say sometimes, and what the men at my church in Maryland say is take the second position when the trials and tribulations hit. And that's why another myth to really debunk is that engagement and living together is the same as marriage. It ain't. It's wrong. And when you stand, if you take your relationship with God seriously, if you take your marriage seriously, if you take being a man seriously, if you take being a child of God seriously, things change when you say I do. And when you jump that broom, and it becomes, now the work begins to actually follow through on the vows you made to God and the vows I made to Gwen Haynes. And so now, till death do us part, means that I got to be willing to throw my life on the line. In sickness and in health, meaning like when things are lovely and she looks the best that she's ever looked and the sun is hitting her face right and her eyes look light brown and the sun hitting it or something like that. But when she's sick and when she ain't feeling right, when somebody did something to her and she might not feel like giving everybody the beautiful smile that my Gwen Haynes has, like I have to be willing to be married and to take care of her and to really meet her where she is. And it takes a full self, and it takes a sacrificial self, and it takes a committed self in order to, husband, meet your wife where she is. Because you got to put your stuff to the back for a moment and meet her where she is.
Okay.
Just wanted to acknowledge, Claudia said one of her myths was that he was going to be my king. I think I saw that correctly. Hey, Lorna, what's going on? I see you come in. What's going on, Sky Miles? Just talking to the people in the audience. She was saying that Lorna said that we were going to do this, that we were going into it 50-50. Okay.
I was just going to add to what John said, and something that you said a moment ago. Another myth, and again, I would love to hear you guys' thoughts, that has to be debunked is, and I know you've heard it, what you did to get her, you got to do to keep her. That's really a myth, but it goes back to what John was talking about. I'm 57, so I met my wife at 28. So those things that got her then, some of those things nature has taken care of.
Come on, bro.
We got 6 children.
Word.
So what I was doing maybe to get her may not be the same thing that's going to keep her now, because the intentions change. You mentioned, I think, that the intent. Life happens and life changes us.
Come on.
Yeah.
And so when we met, we were going out to dinner every Friday, Saturday, hanging out, spending time together. But we got 6 children. That don't happen all the time now. Where physically we were probably, this is an adult show, so we were engaged intimately more early on than we are now.
Right. Right.
So the need changes. Again, I love what John said. Can I love you when you may be down for 6 weeks? And not only do I have to take care of you, I got to take care of the house.
Yes.
I'm not going to throw my hands up and say, well, you know what? Forget it. Can I love you when after 6 children, maybe you're not shaped like you did on the day we got married? And so, again, when life has maybe brought a burden to you, can I love you even the more in a supportive manner, as John said, calls taking that second seat. And so the myth that what I did to get her, I got to do to keep her, that's not really true, because that changes. Life can change that
Yes.
in a split second.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so we've got to be willing to, I like what John said, meet her where she is now. Because my wife needs after 28 years of marriage are not the same needs at year one.
And you got to realize, Anthony, to your point, bro, you got to realize that your marriage doesn't stay in springtime all the time. Like we go through different seasons.
Right.
And the fact that we go through different seasons in our marriage, and we go through different seasons as a wife, we go through different seasons as a husband, throws a triple complexity into this whole marriage dynamic. So that means we got to be focused on staying married and being healthy every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day. And how often do we feel like doing things every single day? And let's not, that's a whole other broadcast when we talk about feelings and emotions and how they can be just as fickle and play tricks on our minds in a relationship.
Yes.
And cause us to think ought of one another, cause us to abuse one another, cause us to think ill of one another, which can last for years. And so again, the work is there. And someone said in the audience, someone said, I thought he was my king. I expected that he would be my king. I can still be Gwen Haynes' king, and she can be my queen, but we got to realize that we come with bumps, we come with sores, we come with voids, we come with pain, we come with insecurities. And my queen is made better because she does have vulnerabilities. Brene Brown in her book Daring Greatly talks about vulnerabilities, and she defines them as emotional exposure, uncertainty, and risk. I love Gwen Haynes because she is emotional. She is sometimes unpredictable, and the way that she feels about unpredictability and how she takes risks. And so it's important for us to be vulnerable. I can still be the king, but I got stuff, and I was a whole person before I got to you. So
yes. Woo. Let me get this question from Claudia. How much does the actual ceremony, the wedding, solidify the action of marriage for you? My husband and I did not have a celebratory wedding. This is both our second wedding, and life just took over. I feel to him this really affects him, but I could be wrong. One, I think it speaks to a conversation that needs to be had. The first thing, what does that really matter to him? Just because you didn't have a wedding does not mean the marriage will not be successful. That's not what that means. But I think a deeper conversation needs to be had with his true and raw feelings about the wedding, because the weddings don't make marriages.
Say it again, please. Say it again. Say it again.
The weddings don't make marriages. We can have an elaborate wedding and still the marriage crumbles. So it's just a matter of us being, as the brothers have spoken, being transparent, being authentic, and being there when you need me to be, because that's the hallmark of the marriage. Will you be there when I need you?
That's real.
I like weddings, don't get me wrong, but I understand that they are not the litmus test for how strong a marriage will grow into. And in our current culture, I don't watch a lot of TV anymore, not reality stuff that married at first sight. I think they place a lot of emphasis on just an elaborate ceremony without giving weight to the whole concept of marriage. So, but again, for us, having an elaborate ceremony will not, again, be the litmus test for whether or not you'll have a successful marriage. The commitment to one another will. And as you said, have a conversation with him about his feelings about it, and give him space to be transparent. without holding this over his head.
That's good.
Okay. Did you have something, John? There's another question.
No. Let's hit that next question. I was taking my notes on the next question from
Okay.
Dr. Jeanette.
Yes. Jeanette says you all are sharing some great information. Thank you. But how did you come to this level of awareness?
Yeah. Let me. I'll jump in if I can.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So I could run through a litany of things, Dr. Jeanette. Thank you for the question. First of all, is mirror work. And constantly looking at myself, saying, you know, how can I improve? Where did I fall down? And then next is, you know, feedback from my wife and feedback from the people in my life that hold me accountable. You know, old school would say that if there's an argument with your wife and or your significant other, and you go to your parents' house, good parents will send you back home. And I know my mother would be like, what your wife say? Like you need to go deal with that. And so looking at things and going at them head up and looking at where I am vulnerable and where I do have weaknesses and committing to change those things. And honestly speaking, as smart as I think I am some days, like I'm really dumb about some things. And I was yesterday years old when I found out how to do some things right, you know. And I would tell you, without going into tremendous detail, last week Gwen and I were having heated fellowship, and I would like I found out something new about myself, what I was doing wrong in my marriage that severely impacted her. But we had just grown desensitized to that very thing. And like, I have to change in order for the whole ocean to change. When I throw myself in, then I make waves. I make changes for the relationship. Another thing to do is just realize my mistakes and admitting them. And then admitting where I'm hurt most recently. And then the last thing that I could definitely say I do, and then I did, is going back in my past and trying to further understand, why am I the way that I am? Because that influences and impacts my wife daily. That influences and impacts my son and the whole marriage dynamic. And if I'm not taking an honest look at myself and doing that mirror work, like, I'm disrespecting the marriage. I'm disrespecting her. I'm literally killing the marriage. And it'll be a slow death. And you can be married. You can be married for 60 years and not have a marriage. Two different things.
and he can about drop the mic on that. And so, but from my standpoint, he touched on a lot of it. A lot of it has to be, for me, just, again, I came into marriage with a whole lot of bad info. I didn't have a whole lot of good blueprints to follow, and so I was fortunate to meet someone who became a mentor, who kind of just talked to me about what it should be. And as John said, it helped me then to become more self-aware, and also looking in the mirror. Okay, where can I improve? How can I do this thing right? Where did a lot of this stuff come from that I'm thinking, and then once you begin to debunk that, okay, that wasn't right. And for me, in comparison to what God's word says, then it kind of changes my mindset. Then I look at this thing differently. Then I understand, okay, all right, that was wrong. I had to do better with this. And again, but it's always a growing process. We always learning, because again, we don't get this thing right every day.
Correct.
We just don't. I told our children our goal for 2021 was just better. Just do better. And so we can all do better. Again, John, Tobias, we all here, but we all can do better. But we all recognize that we can't do better by ourselves. I do believe that iron sharpens iron. So if I want to be a better husband, I need to be around some men who will hold me accountable.
Come on.
But also who are living it day by day as well. And so that's one of the ways I think that has helped me. Just, again, I've been fortunate to have some good mentors now, who I'm accountable to, who will pull my coattail, but also who I can go to and say, look, man, I just want to shake her, and they gonna like, look, man, you're gonna be all right.
Right.
You know,
Don't shake her.
Don't shake her. But they give me the opportunity to vent in a safe space.
Yes, man. Can I just stand on your shoulders, please, and offer this? We and Brother Anthony, you alluded to this earlier, so I just want to build on a foundation that you set. We have to redefine how we've been growing, rearing, and bringing up our young boys and our men. You cannot just, there's an old myth in corporate America that says if I go just work 3 times as hard as the next person, I'm gonna be all right. That's a myth. Like, we need to understand what the chessboard is like. We need to understand what the layout of an organization is like. We need to network. We need to know how to move in the room. We need to have situational awareness. We need to be savvy. We need to be keenly aware of ourselves. We need to be keenly aware of our value. All these things we need to bring to a marriage as well. And so the myth is you can't just provide. Like, you have to be relational in your relationship. You have to know how to have a conversation. Communication always goes on, but we have to know how to communicate differently. It's much like being fishers of men. Like, if you're being a fisher of men, you have to have 10 fishing poles in order to be able to attract various people. It's the same thing in a marriage. Like, I have to know how to meet my wife where she is on various days and in various seasons. She has to do the same for me. I have to continuously learn. Just like at work, to get better at my craft, I have to continuously learn my wife in order to get better at the marriage, so that she feels appreciated. She knows who she is in the relationship. She is confirmed. All these things need to happen. It's not an easy job. It's not just a job description. We do have to live it. We do have to eat it. We do have to breathe it.
Yes.
In marriage, what John said, it is hard work, it's doable work, but it's rewarding work. But we got to be able to put the grind. The term I use is I work my grind, and so as I work my grind to solidify finances for my family, I got to do the same thing with my wife. And so whether it's, again, knowing where to meet her on today.
Say so.
See, I can't be so focused on trying to meet her at Christmas. I got to meet her today, because where she's
not
at
just
today,
a special occasion relationship.
Where she's at today may not be where she is tomorrow. The needs that she has today may not be the needs for tomorrow. So I've got to be willing to be in tune, which requires that I listen. I got to be aware, which requires me to look with an eye of purpose. And then I got to be transparent and open to let the Holy Spirit tell me what's going on.
Come on.
At the end of the day, Brother John hit on, a lot of this has to do with our relationship with God. God is a God of relationships. And so one of the terms I use in my thing is we got to learn how to manage our relationship management. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to work the relationships to maximize the outcome in the relationships. Again, if I choose not to work my grind with my wife, I could be married 6 years and not be married one day.
Come on.
But if I'm gonna manage this relationship so that when I retire and she retire and we kick back and we happy, I got to work it. I got to manage it. I got to know that there are ebbs and flows. There are days I need to pump the brakes. Sometimes I need to hit the gas. But in always, as John said, we communicating.
Real talk.
And so we got to be willing to do that in order to sustain. And again, that's something that I had to learn because, again, growing up, as I said a moment ago, I didn't have a lot of good blueprints to follow. My father never argued with my mom. He would just, let it go. My wife was not that kind of person.
Trap.
She wanted to talk. And again, I'll share this because, again, I think that some of the things that, again, I'm sharing so that maybe somebody out there will know, okay, it wasn't just me. My mother and father never had public displays of affection. They didn't hold hands. I never saw them kiss in public. you know. And so my wife and I, we're married. She want to hold hands. I'm like, what you doing that for? But for her, it was like, oh, so you don't want nobody to know we're together? And it wasn't that. But again, those are some of the things that I brought that I had to deprogram from me and then program for my new computer, which was my wife. Let me put into her what's going to be work for her. Ain't no need of me putting some software in me that ain't going to work with this computer.
Come on.
You know?
Yes.
And so that
Come
required
on.
me to just do a good evaluation of self. Again, always wonder, where did this come from? Why do I feel this way about holding her hand in public? You know, but also, why am I not wanting to talk? Because I ain't see my dad argue, so I ain't gonna argue. You know, and again, those are some things again that requires us as men to be transparent. You know, and be willing to say that I love my mom and dad, I respected them, but some of the things that they did in marriage don't work for me.
No, sir. And last, before you come back in, Tobias, because I know you got a gang of things to get to. We have to be willing to, and maybe this is a good segue. We have to be willing to unwire or unhinge or unlearn things that were bad information for today and for a successful marriage. I just go back to what I said earlier. 50 years is a long time. So there's a certain admiration for longevity, but longevity and abuse shouldn't go together. So longevity and lack of relationship shouldn't go together. Longevity and me lording over my wife shouldn't go together. Longevity and me being the father that my grandfather and my uncles and my father was, and that's not optimal for my marriage, that can't exist. There's got to be a change and a transformation. So
and what you're saying, John, that those men were good for that time and for that spouse. And
were
so
they?
that we don't know. Now that we don't know.
All right.
So because even if, let's just say for argument, you could be married multiple times, but I still have to learn that spouse. And I have to take the time to invest in that spouse. Just because I've done it numerous times doesn't give me the knowledge of it. So one of the things that you stated, what I always saw and I find myself doing in my marriage was I was shut down, because that's all I saw my dad do. He would just shut down and be quiet. So as you were talking, I was like, and Anthony was talking, like, where did this come from? And so it come from the model that I saw. And so when I realized that I was hurting her by shutting down, then it hurt me, because there's no way I could be connected to you and not be affected by your pains.
Preach.
So, hold on. Let's see what we got. What is the best way, Janelle, what is the best way for wives to support husbands who need to unwire but are unwilling to do the work or taking the time to do the work? So, again, everything
big one.
That's definitely a big one. One, again, I would go back to communication and express how this makes you feel as the woman. Of course, I would definitely say have some prayer with this. But you have to express how this makes me feel. When we're doing counseling, you hear the speaker listening technique, and it says, what I'm hearing you say is, you made me feel, and then you tell how you made me feel. And so the goal is to see that I'm listening to what is going on here. And so now I know I'm keying in on the hurts that is being caused, and hopefully change the outcome. Because you're not trying to create the years of doing the same thing. Because as you stated, I could be married and still not have a marriage for years.
I would just add, in response to that question, 2 bullet points. Number one, with many things, it's going to need some space and time. So as a wife, you stand in the gap for him during this season. This may be a season where you're pulling 120% while he's pulling 80. You know, and very practically, I would also encourage you. You don't have to tell him every day, I'm praying for you to be unwired. I'm praying for you to be unwired. I'm praying for you to be
Word.
unwired. I'm praying for you to be unwired. You pray in your secret closet that God will work through the Holy Spirit to you pray that God would open up his heart to be receptive to your words. That he will be receptive to your words. And you just pray in secret and give him time, and then ask the Holy Spirit to tell you, when can I drop this nugget, this seed in his spirit? That's all you got to do. You pray, cover him during this season, and ask the Holy Spirit to say, when can I drop this nugget or this seed in his spirit? Because it will be the Holy Spirit that will make the transformation.
Let me add some if I can to what my brother just said, because he said a whole word there. I would agree wholeheartedly. Pray for your husband, pray constantly, and pray for yourself, and pray that you're seeing the situation, wife, as clearly as you can see it. Get some feedback from a trusted source that's willing to give you the truth and not just commiserate with you. So the truth will exist anywhere. It won't just be your truth. Your truth is really your opinion. You want the truth that will be constant, that will exist anywhere. The next thing to do, Dr. Jonette, in asking that question, thank you for it. If therapy is needed, go to therapy. And you want to go as a family, cool. You want to go as a married couple, cool. But if your husband is unwilling to go, you go. And if you go, after you go through a few sessions, then ask your husband, will you go with me? I want you to go with me. How about you don't have to say a thing, just go with me. And sometimes, as we know, it takes you to take baby steps in order to crawl in order to learn how to take baby steps to eventually get to running. The next thing that we want to do is engage marriage mentors. And if you have a great marriage ministry at your church, get involved and take courses. Take courses together, take courses individually. Get advice on wife. Get advice on how to have a courageous conversation. One thing that's I consider one of my gifts and what I do at work for my leaders and what I do in my coaching for leaders is help them choreograph courageous conversations. And this is when, like, the conversation that you need to have can really blow up in our faces and serve to kill our marriage if we don't orchestrate it correctly. Get advice on how to have that courageous conversation and how to approach the conversation. And tangential to that, you have to learn your husband. Like, it's our responsibility to learn you, and we're most of the time in pursuit of you from the very beginning and throughout our marriages. Learn your husband so that you know how to get to him and you know how to meet him where he is as well.
Absolutely. We probably get to one more myth, but Shayna, do any of you mentor other men for husbandry? Yes. Answer that question. Yes. This probably be the last one we'll get to for this time. Hopefully we can do this again, brothers.
Tobias, let me just give a correlation here. Last week, a great friend, a great man of God, a prominent attorney in the DC metro area sent me an article on developing your personal board of directors. So that's a good professional advisement and good coaching and good mentoring right there. But as a husband, you also want to develop your own board of directors, a board of advisors. You need to surround yourself with men who will give you the truth, who will give you godly insight, who know how to meet your fleshy self and help that spiritual man come out as well, and give you a place, as our brother Anthony said, a safe place to vent. That's a psychologically safe place to vent and safe place to just be and speak how you want to speak, so that you can then get it out of you and dress it up. And so that when it comes to your life, to your wife, when you deliver that message to your wife, then it'll be right. So you got to practice. You got to practice in front of the mirror. You got to interview yourself. And these are things that can really help you in relating to your wife and to your marriage. So just wanted to add that in there, bro. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Can I add one quick tangent to what John said? And what I often encourage brothers to do when you're having that challenging conversation, script it out, write it out, because so often when we're having conversations that can be emotionally based, the emotions take over, and oftentimes what we want to say or intended to say gets lost in our emotions. So if you're going to have a conversation, just kind of script it out, write it out, read it out, go over so that you can express what you want to get out. Because again, so often when we have those conversations, if I'm in a place where I'm feeling like my ego is being bruised, then I go into fight mode and forget about anything I'm trying to say that's going to be uplifting. I'm in fight mode. So if you're having that conversation with your husband, script it out. Run it through your mind a couple of times, write it down so you'll be able to get out what you want to express in a manner that won't come over so much as threatening.
Yes. This probably will be the last one. I'm trying to see which will be a good one here because we had a whole list of things. Let's see. You said keeping score, John. That was one of your things. Keeping score doesn't help me win.
Man, I lose every time. And what I realize is that if I have the audacity to get into a keeping score dynamic with my wife, I always lose. From day one, I've lost. Like I can't beat her in an argument. As savvy as I think I am, as I think I am, I can't beat her in an argument. And so that keeping score says that I'm retaining the hurt, which can develop into hate, which can develop into disrespect and disregard and separation from my wife. And as you know, you can be sleeping right beside your wife and be as far as the East is from the West, from one another. And so it is so imperative to not keep score. And there's a sports analogy where, professional athletes, like if there's a bad play, how you get past the last play means everything. If you're running that hurt, if you're running that track of hurt and discouragement and pain over and over again, that's your self-talk. And then you get with somebody that commiserates and that confirms that horrible self-talk. You're the farthest away from your marriage and from the voice of God and from healing that you could be. Like we have to address these things, and we have to find ways to get closer and to heal and forgive. And sometimes you do have to forget and move on. If it's not beneficial to your marriage, stop retaining it. Change how you think about some things.
Can I add a point to that right quick about keeping score?
Yes.
John said it. Number one, again, my wife is about as smooth as Tennessee whiskey, so I cannot win the argument. But when we begin to keep score, then we defeat that whole scripture. And I think it's 1 Corinthians 13 that says, "Love does not keep a record of wrong."
Come on, brother. What does it mean?
So already then I'm out of the will of God if I'm keeping score, because he didn't cast my sins into the sea of forgiveness, but I'm gonna remember yours. So that's a level of defeat already. And so we have to be mindful again that keeping score is not helpful, because also it goes against the boundaries of unconditional. We talked about that earlier.
Yes.
If I'm keeping score, then I'm developing conditions.
Correct.
It may not start out in the beginning as conditions, but if I keep score, eventually it's going to lead into some conditions. Into some conditions.
Sir, a whole game of defense and defensiveness never won a game. Yep. At some point, you have to go on. You got to go on. You got to score. You got to go on offense. And if I'm straight up playing defense and being defensive for our whole marriage, it's gonna kill it. It's going to kill your marriage. It's going to kill your relationship.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna be looking like the marriages that people in your family and in your ancestry have had. Oh, grandma and grandpa were married for 60 years, but were they relational? Did they have a marriage? So you gotta figure out what you want. You gotta have the end in mind, and you gotta shoot for that. So
and that's so true. You cannot emphasize this enough. Keeping score, no. And with that being said, another quick myth I'll say is just saying I'm sorry ain't gonna fix the problem. You know, for a lot of us as men, we think
change behavior.
We did something wrong. I said I'm sorry. What more I'm supposed to do? More work.
One second. Lorna had a question. If you'll put that on the screen.
Was that the one that says, what if men don't believe we need help?
Yes.
There are times, this is a hard thing to swallow, and it does not come with age. It purely comes with spiritual maturity and life maturity. Sometimes the seed you plant, you won't get to see the trees and the flowers grow. And so your job is to plant the seed of what you need. What you need, different from what you want. Plant the seed of what you need. And there are repercussions and consequences in a relationship. You got to plant those seeds. And sometimes a friend or someone in their marriage board of directors may be able to deliver a better message than you can, or may make that seed go into good soil. So make your petitions known to God, and then have a good conversation with your husband and tell him the effects that it's having on you, whatever that behavior is. You got to continue to voice those things. We cannot be nags to one another. We cannot kill each other's spirit. You have to do it in love to the extent that you can. And you got to pray for a loving spirit to deliver that message, or time and space and divine synchronicity and Kairos time to deliver that message. But there has to be. Yeah, because I don't own the calendar. I don't own the watch. I'd like to be on God's timing to get that message right. And so we got to deliver that in the right way so that our husbands can receive it. And we have to do the same for you wives.
And Pastor Stewart says so often about what you're referencing, seed time and harvest. And so there is a time for those things. And those, as she said, you don't plant and receive the harvest in the same season. So, so you have to plant, pray, and then the Kairos, and let God do his work. So there is no time limit on when this harvest is coming, but I have to continue to do my part of praying and petitioning, making my petition known toward God. Anthony, you had something?
I was just going to, again, piggyback on what John said about planting that seed. In many marriages and relationships, we have tried to change people. And so that's not our role. So wives, because I think there may be more women listening, just plant the seed of what John said, of what you need from your husband. You plant the seed. Again, it is God who gives the increase. It's God who's going to bring the harvest in his own time. But if you plant the seed, a harvest is going to come. And then that's also where wives, you got to have a walk of faith. You know, as Tobias said, we don't plant today and expect to see the harvest tomorrow. God's time is not like our time, as John said. And so if you plant that seed of what you need from your husband, I'm telling you now, if you plant it in faith, it don't matter what your husband do, God's going to bring the harvest.
Absolutely.
You preaching now.
Marriage ain't nothing but a walk of faith, for real. And faith, I'm gonna tell you what this dude told me from my men's Bible study in Maryland, and I saw him in Target, and he gave me this in 30 seconds. He was like, faith is the net. So you have to be willing to fall into faith. You have to be willing to leap and take risks and be vulnerable, knowing that faith is the net. Faith is the net. That's what you're leaping into, faith. And when you leap into the air in your marriage, God will build a plane around you. He'll put wings on your back. I promise you he will. but you have to, and you gotta, one of the top things, you gotta heal. Whatever happened to you as little John or little Anthony or little Tobias, we gotta heal so you don't bring that trauma into your marriage. And if you brought it into your marriage, you still got to be willing to get some help for it, and ask your wife to help you, and ask the dudes around you to help you, and don't be afraid to cry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One last thing, because we're almost at an hour. I think it was Lisa or Katina that said something in the previous show. Trust our wives to be who they're called to be in the marriage. So that meaning that I can't, even if she's my wife, I got to trust that she's going to do what she needs to do for us to make this work.
Yeah, I can see that principle. We have to trust them to be who God made them for us. See, John's wife was made for John.
Mm-hmm.
Your wife was made for you. My wife, Antoinette, was made for me. If you see her, she'll tell you, she can't count. Now, she loves to shop, but she says she can't count. I majored in accounting and finance. But for me, in my home, she is our money manager. Because I trust her to be what God made her for me. For us, I don't want to have to manage money. I don't want to have to, but for me, she's that. She is that prayer warrior when I may be a little tired or be extended. And so, but for me, that works. And so we have to trust who God made them for us, because I'm almost positive my wife and John's wife are not the same person. They ain't got the same personality, but in each one of our individual marriages, they work. It's like that 8-cylinder car running on all 8 cylinders.
Yeah.
Say so. And the important thing is to know, in general, this is what I've learned. Like I'm the seed planter and she is the multiplier. And you can look at that spiritually, and you can look at that actually physically. I give my wife the seed, she makes the son. I give my wife, let's take Anthony's standpoint. If I give my wife money, if I have her be the money manager, and she agrees to be the money manager, she has a greater discipline than I have, which is going to multiply our money, which is going to give us reserves, which is going to put us in better financial position. So that says to me that, yes, I have to trust my wife, and not an or, and I have to learn my wife. I have to learn who she is so that I can best utilize her. And I can feed what is her gifting. And I can make room for her gifts. And I can put her in right positions. I can put her in right positions in my life. So I got to learn her. And I got to be studying all my life. That's my responsibility. It's in my job description as a husband.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Brothers, it has been really, really good. A great conversation. We are now at an hour. So thank everyone for tuning in. Thanks for your questions. So what's up again? Lisa Lionheart Society, Lisa Lewis Daniels, Katina Fuller Scott, at Be What Matters LLC. Truth and Nothing But the Truth will take a vacation in June. So we will rejoin the world in July. Brothers, this has been a very rich conversation. Hopefully we can do this again. As you can see, it has been much needed. And just thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you for leading.
My pleasure.
My pleasure
all right,
too,
brother. You all have a great weekend, and thanks.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
All
Take
right.
care. Be encouraged.
Love and respect.
Praying for y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it.